I still remember the first day I met Sarah. It was our first week at university, and I was early, nervous, and standing outside the lecture hall with a notebook clutched in my hands. Everyone else had already gone in, but I didn't want to be the very first to enter. I kept checking my phone, pretending to scroll through messages, even though there were none. That's when she came rushing in, hair wild, bag half open, dropping papers and pens as she ran. Sorry, I'm late," she shouted to no one in particular. I stared at her, and before I knew it, she smiled at me and said, "Hey, I'm Sarah. First day, huh?" From that moment, our friendship began. Sarah was always late. Every day, every class, every coffee date, every group project. If we made plans for 2 p.m., she'd show up at 2:45, sometimes with a coffee in hand for me, sometimes with a story about why she was late, and sometimes with no explanation at all. But she always came. That was the thing about Sarah. She may have been chaotic, loud, and impossible to schedule, but she always showed up, especially when it mattered. In our second year, when I had a terrible flu and couldn't get out of bed, Sarah skipped her own lectures to bring me soup, medicine, and the worst trashy magazines she could find. "Laughter is the best medicine," she said, as she read dramatic headlines out loud in a funny voice. I laughed, coughed, and laughed some more. She was messy. Her room was a disaster zone. I'm not exaggerating when I say she once lost her laptop under a pile of clothes and only found it 3 days later. She was the kind of person who wrote ideas on napkins, missed assignment deadlines, and somehow still managed to charm professors into giving her extensions. I used to roll my eyes and tease her about it, but I secretly admired her ability to survive and even thrive in chaos. We were different. I liked routines, planning, color-coded notes. She liked surprises, last-minute decisions, and living life one moment at a time. But maybe that's why we became so close. We balanced each other out. When I stressed over exams, she'd drag me out for ice cream. When she forgot about a quiz, I'd lend her my notes. We argued sometimes, of course we did, but we always made up. Always. After graduation, things changed. She got a job in another city. I stayed back to pursue a master's degree. We promised to call, to visit, to stay in touch. And for a while, we did. There were late-night video calls, funny voice notes, and messages filled with emojis and silly jokes. But then life happened. I got busy. She got busier. Weeks turned into months. Sometimes I'd send her a message and get a reply days later. Sometimes she'd call me when I was too tired to talk. I told myself it was normal, that we were just growing up, growing apart. But part of me always missed her. Missed the laughter, the energy, the chaos she brought into my life. Years passed. I got married, moved again, changed jobs. I still thought of her often. Whenever I saw someone running to catch a bus with their shoelaces untied, I thought of Sarah. Whenever I saw a notebook with doodles in the margins, I thought of her. And whenever I was early for something and waiting alone, I thought of how she'd always show up, even if she was late. Then one day, I saw her name pop up on my phone. After such a long silence, it felt surreal. My heart raced as I answered the call. "Hey," she said, her voice just the same. "I was just thinking about you." We talked for hours. We laughed like no time had passed. She told me about the job she had quit, the little bakery she had opened with her cousin, the dog she had adopted and named Waffles. I told her about my new job, my quiet apartment, and the plants I kept forgetting to water. She said, "You're still the same, organized, thoughtful, and always too hard on yourself." I told her I missed her. There was a pause. Then she said, "I missed you too. I think I just didn't know how to stay close when everything around me was moving so fast." And I understood. Sarah was never good at planning, but she was always good at being present, at living in the now. And maybe, for a while, our nows just didn't match. After that call, we made a plan to meet. We picked a date, a cafe halfway between our cities. I arrived 10 minutes early. The place was quiet, warm, full of the smell of fresh coffee and soft music. I sat by the window, watching the street, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. 15 minutes passed. 20. I smiled. Some things never change. Then she rushed in, hair still wild, jacket half-zipped, sunglasses on her head even though it was cloudy. I know, I'm late," she said, hugging me tightly. "But I'm here." And she was. In that moment, all the years, all the distance, all the silence melted away. It felt like university again. Two girls laughing over coffee, sharing stories, and knowing that no matter how different we were, no matter how far we drifted, we'd always find our way back. Over the next hours, we talked about everything. We remembered old jokes, shared new dreams, talked about fears we hadn't spoken out loud to anyone else. She told me how scared she'd been to call me after so long. I told her how often I'd missed her, but didn't know what to say. We both cried a little. We both laughed a lot. Friendships change. Life pulls people in different directions. But some bonds, no matter how much time passes, don't break. They bend, stretch, sometimes fade into the background. But they're still there, waiting for the right moment to shine again. Sarah is still late. She still loses her keys, forgets appointments, and lives in beautiful chaos. And I still show up early, plan ahead, and carry extra tissues in my bag, just in case. But now, we meet in the middle. We talk more. We visit each other. We remember that friendship isn't about being the same or always being on time. It's about showing up, even if it's late, especially when it matters. And as I look back now, I realize I never really lost her. We just took a long pause, but the story continues.